Hi guys, welcome back to All Bases Covered with Mackenzie Alexander. I am so excited. I have one of my good friends, well-known reporter, just a great person. She is a reporter for Canes All Access at U Miami. She reports for the Legends Way. She has a book. She has her own business called Play Where Your Feet Are. All these different things. She just has so much knowledge and talent when it comes to the entertainment industry and just being a great person. And so I'm just really thankful that she even took the time to make this possible. And I'm so excited for you guys to meet her. And yeah, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Cameron Dobbs.
Hello, Mackenzie.
How are you?
Oh my goodness, I am so good. I'm so honored to be on the show today. I love following you and everything that you're doing. And now seeing this new platform and business and everything that you're working with is so exciting. So honored to be on the show and excited for this conversation.
Yeah, I think we should probably start off first about telling the audience kind of where we met, because I feel like in that and just in general, it's just crazy because so we both attended Life Retreat during what was it, July of this year? And I was so nervous, and I don't know if you were the same way, but I literally was I don't know anyone here who does the same job as me, probably not gonna get it. I don't know, I just was super full of nerves. And during the second day of the retreat, we went into worship and we went into our nightly, I guess, gathering for everyone who's at the retreat. And I met Cam. We sat by each other so unexpectedly, and I was like, okay, what do you do for work? We're just talking. And she's like, I'm a sports reporter. And I'm like, what? And it's kind of a big deal. There was really nobody there else who really got it. And so let me just say this, being in the sports industry is so hard. When you want to glorify God sometimes, it is so hard to not take the, success and be like, oh, it's my own, and be humble and all these different things. And so Cameron's really just a great inspiration in that sense. She's a woman of God. She's so hardworking, and so right away I just really got to know her, and I was like, this is my girl. She's someone I'm going to go to. And so we met at the Life Retreat, and if anyone's watching, is even on the fence, I don't think there's probably many people watching that know about the Life Retreat, but if you are, it's an all-girls retreat that is hosted in 30A area, and without that, we never even met. And so then that led us basically to just keep it up with each other on social media, and yeah, ever since then, we've just been following each other and been watching her succeed and everything. So yeah, that's how it kind of started. But let's get right into it. So Cam, gosh, you have a lot of experience, and you're busy. You're really busy. Let's say that. So you're a host for Canes All Access. You're a host for Legends Way. You played volleyball at U Miami. What else? Let's see. Your most recent thing is you're team captain for Team Hurricanes, the Dolphins Challenge for saving lives when it comes to cancer and life-saving cancer research, right?
Yep, that's right. It's the NFL's #1 fundraiser is Dolphins Challenge Cancer. One team, one fight, all to stop cancer. And last year, I actually hosted the 35-mile ride as the MC. This year, you can see in that photo there, I was able to host the Heavy Hitters event. So these are the people that are donating $64 million to help this research fund. And then this year, on top of being the host and MC of the ride and the Heavy Hitters, I also am having my own team. So I have my own team of girls. We're running a 5K together, and just super excited to join hands with the Miami Dolphins even further, stop to fight cancer, and then, of course, get with my girls and do a little hot girl walk, run, jog, 5K.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. So how'd you even kind of get that opportunity? Was it just you obviously networked so much at Miami and you've met so many people, and so did they kind of just approach you in a way of they know that you're the person to kind of do that?
Yeah, and I do a lot of roles, like you said, with Miami. So my official title is I'm the manager of sponsorship content and on-air host with Legends, which is all about sponsorships, brand partnerships, and of course the Miami Hurricanes. So I'm kind of the bridge in the gap between Athletics and Legends and partnerships. And so in doing that, I do a lot of different roles of content creation, working with brands, sponsored content, fan zone content, lots of social media work, scheduling all of our sponsored content for the entire year that comes from Miami
Wow.
Hurricanes. So it is quite the Excel spreadsheet that I have. And then on top of that, though, outside of my job, I also do a lot of work in game hosting and in arena hosting for the Miami Hurricanes. So I do in arena hosting for Miami Hurricanes women's basketball, occasionally men's basketball, and then also baseball as well. So there was one game that I was hosting for women's basketball last year. And there is a guy that was there that worked with UHealth, which is one of our sponsors, and they work with the hospitals in Miami. And he was talking to me. He saw me host. He saw my energy. And he said, hey, I have an opportunity for you. Let me get your number. Let me get your contact. And I'm going to reach out. So little did I know that would turn into hosting the 35-mile ride at the Watsco Center last year for Dolphins Challenge Cancer, which eventually just tumbled into further things like opportunities of hosting the Heavy Hitters event. And from there, I'm now an ambassador with them this year, trying to be like an influencer for the whole entire organization and then joining my team as well. So like you said, it's networking, and I know we're going to touch on it. So it's really just playing where my feet are. It's doing my best and being my best in the position that I'm in, not knowing that it might turn into something, not thinking it might turn into something, but simply just doing my best. And people always notice. Something will always come out of it if you're just doing it to do your best and glorify and serve the people that you're there for at the moment. And a lot of people will notice and bring me on for other things since. So that's pretty much how I've gotten every single job that I've gotten. I've only applied for one thing my entire life, which was my internship. Yeah, my internship I had to apply for in college. But other than that, it has only been because people have passed my name along in the right rooms at the right times. So if that tells you anything about networking and how important it is extremely important.
Yeah, like I can't agree with Cam more. It is not about what you know in this industry. And I'm not saying that just in this industry, probably other ones too, but especially in the sports industry, it is not about what you know. But it really isn't. It's about who you know, because I think you can probably attest to this, Cam, but if something is going on with a job opening or a position opening up, if a person knows you and knows your work ethic, they're going to come to you before they post that opening, which is just so cool, because that is something I always tell people that, ask advice. And I'm sure you tell people are probably the same thing, of never burn any bridges of anywhere you go, because you never know what's going to be full circle back. You never know who you're going to have to see again. You never know. And so, yeah, I think all these different things that Cam has done, like I said, it is because of who she knows, and she knows not just herself. Like, it's also, me and Cam talk about this a lot, but it's also about just being in the right place at the right time and just trusting God's timing. Because, Cam, you probably say this too, but yes, it is 100% networking, but it is also like God has already ordained that a long time ago, and He knew what He was going to do and how y'all were going to meet, and how it was just going to be to glorify Him, kind of thing. And I know you talk a lot about that, and you're super big into that, and you always talk about how sports is your ministry. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, going off of what you just said there anyway, I could go easily and say that really my entire idea for this year, my mindset is really to know that if God's not in it, I don't want it. And if He's in it, I believe He's going to bring it to me. And if He's not bringing anything at the current moment, then I'm just going to steward what He's already brought, because that in and of itself is already an answered prayer. And so what basically that means to me is that I am going to do my best. I'm going to strive. I'm going to work super hard. I'm going to grind, send out resumes, send out reels, whatever it might look like and be. But I'm also just going to simply trust God and know that if an opportunity is for me and truly for me and of God, then it's going to come to me. And by no means does that mean I'm going to sit back, relax, not work hard, not strive for anything, and not be excellent. I'm going to do all that. But I also just very much believe that God is going to put me in the right places at the right time, like you said. So yes, timing's a big thing, but I also don't think I'm going to miss anything that's of God and that God truly has for me. So it is really just doing the best and being your best no matter what, no matter where, playing where your feet are. Know that any impact has, or any position has impact and purpose, running with that as much as possible and trusting God the rest of the way. Because I believe if I'm doing my best ultimate job, then I am going to reach my goals. I am going to gain the things that I'm supposed to gain. And if I'm not supposed to gain them, I'm not supposed to gain them. And if I'm still in a certain job, it's because God still has me there for a certain reason. I think of the phrase that people say, like, if God's not, if I'm not dead, then God's not done. I think it's the same thing when you can put it into any job, any position. Like, if I'm still here, God's not done with me here. So I'm still going to be in this moment. I'm going to still push myself. Maybe I still need to meet someone, connect with someone, whatever it might be. But yeah, for sure, just trusting God in the industry, in the workforce, and everything is so, so important.
Yeah, I know trusting God is obviously something that people always like glamorize, and it's like God's got me, and like trusting God in all because He's gonna like supply, and like these are all like true things, like 1,000%. But Cam, there's been some times in your life where you probably have had a doubting of like, God, what are you doing in my life? Like, for those that don't know, Cam used to play volleyball at U Miami, and her career was tragically ended. Now that you look back, Cam, you realize why. But during that, you were like, probably why God, So can you kind of just touch on that and tell me more about that?
Sure. The long story short version of it is, like Mackenzie said, I was a starter, a captain, the whole shebang for the University of Miami Hurricanes volleyball team. I was living my best life, thriving, playing all different positions, and not only just thriving on the court, but off the court too. I mean, 4.0, top 10% of my class, you name it, I had it going on. President of Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I was just succeeding always around and giving God the glory. Like, this wasn't even a very selfish time that I needed to be knocked down. Like, I was just enjoying living life, thriving in so many blessings and doing the best that I could. And then all of a sudden, in a blink of an eye with one bad block move in my junior season, very first tournament of my junior season, my promising junior season, before I planned to go play professionally for a couple years, come back, and then pursue broadcasting. All of a sudden, like I said, in that blink of an eye with one bad block move, made a move, hands were wide, got nailed in the head, and that ended up forcing my third concussion within 12 months. So my third brain injury within 12 months, and that forced me to then go through about 4 months of absolute awful life, hell for lack of a better word, and really become a vegetable for a little bit of that time. Ended up dropping out of school. The NCAA medically disqualified me from playing volleyball, was forced to medically retire, lost all of my dreams of playing pro. All that joy that you see with me playing volleyball was completely gone in a blink of an eye. And so I lost everything that I had because I not only lost my chance to play on the volleyball court, but I lost any opportunity in school. I was not achieving anything anymore because I had to drop out, had to go home completely to heal. And it was just awful. I mean, full of anxiety, depression, wore sunglasses, earplugs, hats, and headphones for 4 months straight, inside or outside, no matter where I went, to just block out any stimuli. So that was definitely a time where I realized the power of playing where your feet are, of knowing that, hey, any position does have impact and purpose. And if I'm on the court as a starter and a captain, you bet I'm going to be the best volleyball player out there. I'm going to strive for the ACC accolades. I'm going to push to get my team to the NCAA tournament. I'm going to work towards playing professionally. That has been my goal for the past decade. But then if I am sitting left bench, just not starting, that's okay. No worries at all. I will go on the bench. I will be the best cheerleader for the team. I'll be loud, obnoxious, whatever I got to do to help my team. And then when I was injured, same thing goes. My goal might not be to be an ACC player of the week anymore, but if I can wake up and walk to the kitchen and back without feeling lightheaded, dizzy, and nearly passing out, that's a win for me. And so it's kind of changing your definition of a win, of a victory, of a failure, and knowing that failure really isn't even a thing at all. And that if you quote unquote fail, it's only your first attempt in learning. And it's making all of these mistakes, these fails, to only take you to progress towards your future goals. So that then switched to, I had the amazing opportunity to become a coach at just 20 years old in college. So jumped on staff with Canes Volleyball with the best coaching staff in the nation and coached for 2 seasons. Learned a lot in that position. And again, proved once again that you can play where your feet are, whether you're playing or not. I was now on the sidelines, not playing ever again, but I was still able to find impact and purpose in that position, and learned a lot about trusting God in that season, and learned the big definition of Ephesians 3:20 of knowing that God can do exceedingly abundantly more than you can ask for or imagine is more than you can personally ask for or imagine. Because I did not ask for my playing career to end early.
Yeah.
But God did that, and he did so much more with it than I could ever think of. So, I mean, to get a book out of it, to have speaking engagements out of it, but really more than anything, to be able to connect with so many different athletes who go through mental health, who go through identity crises, all the things that I'm able to connect with now because of the struggles I faced is incredible. And I bet I wouldn't have had the same opportunities if I would have just succeeded, and everything was all bright and cherry the whole way through.
Yeah, obviously, I just want to touch on play where your feet are because we haven't talked about that yet. And thank you for sharing that, Cam, because I know it wasn't easy. And I know having to go back and talk about things maybe weren't the best things in your life. It is hard and it brings anxiety. It makes you think about things that you haven't had to think about in a while. So I just appreciate you even opening up about that and sharing that. But your story is going to be a light to those who have going through the same thing because you're right. We don't understand why God puts us through certain things, but a lot of times it's not even about us. It's for somebody else that needs it, or it's for somebody else's testimony that's going to be amazing. And somebody who is going to go through the same thing as you did, and they're going to have that advice. They're going to have that extra outlet to go and look and get advice from of, okay, she went through the same thing. How did she heal from it? What can I take from this? This situation really sucks. But then again, other people are going through this, so I'm going to be okay. So I think God really used you and is still using you as a vessel for those who are going through the same thing. And I can just say for myself, or being personal, I dealt with concussions also. I think going into my junior year of my soccer season, I had about 12 concussions throughout my entire life from not entire life, like 8th grade to 12th grade. And so soccer is obviously head on, your hands on your head, like you're hitting with your head, like not a very smart thing. And if anyone's listening, your head is so important. Like I know people are just like, oh, I just hit my head, haha. Like it's actually a serious thing. Like if you get a concussion, it's not just a concussion and hey, I'm out for a few weeks. No, there's actually things that can happen when you don't really pay attention. And you're you just want to get back to the game because I know there's so many athletes, and you probably know this too, Cam. They're it's just a concussion. I'll be back in a few weeks, and then or they'll even they'll just kind of play it off. They won't even tell anybody about it, and then it gets worse and it turns into other things. And I mean, thank God, basically you had the courage to walk away because you had no choice. Sometimes you have no choice, but by all this happening and all me saying this, it led to so many great things for you. And that is one of the things we're talking about. Play where your feet are. That's your baby. That's your first business. That is your testimony. That is literally what God had everything happen for. Just play where your feet are, from what I've heard and from what you told me, is just not, not think about the next thing, or not going to be okay, well, what can I do now? Just really enjoying the presence, just being in the present, enjoying where God has you. And so I just want you to kind of talk about play where your feet are, how it all started, where the idea came from. Was it after the concussion, or was it more or less something you always knew you wanted to do?
Sure. It's a little bit of everything to answer that question there. So play where your feet are is a phrase that I grew up hearing my mom say to me all the time, because my parents are the kind of parents that are always going to give the parental pep talk. So every time I was going to a tournament, a volleyball match, whatever it might be, they always had something to say. And honestly, at the time, I'm just not the kind of athlete that really wants to hear that. I'm more of athlete in the zone. I'm ready to go. Game day, I'm good. Let's go play the game. Let me be with my team and we're going to kill it. And it's going to be great. And so for many years, 8+ years, I had these words go in one ear and out the other, and just kind of ignored them, heard them, but didn't necessarily process them into my own life until fast forward to me medically retiring, going through the hardest time of my life, depression, anxiety, concussion number 3, third in 1 year, the whole shebang with number 3, and dropping out of school and literally the whole 9 yards there. Awful season of my life. I started realizing kind of the power of playing where your feet are. But still, it never came really to fruition until I was in a podcast. It was my first ever time I was on a podcast as a guest. And at the end of the episode, the guy didn't even ask what my advice was. I just told him, I said, look, I'm going to give you my best piece of advice. Here it is. It's to play where your feet are. And this is what it means to me. And this is where I've heard it and the whole story. And immediately he was like, oh my goodness, this is so good. Let me write it down. We're going to make it the title of the episode and everything. And so I'm like, cool, amazing. Sounds great. And so from there, my mom told me, because she was in marketing for 20 plus years, she is momager through and through, like Kris Jenner, watch out, it's Paula Dobbs time. And she just came in and was like, look, like, if you want to make this something, I guarantee you can make it something, because it started blowing up, kind of started snowballing effect to where someone listened to that episode and then wanted me on their show, and then they wanted me on their show, and it just kept going from there. And so at the time, I had actually already been writing my first book and already had written a lot of different chapters, not super focused on it, but just kind of jotting down ideas, stories, scriptures, verses, whatever it might be. And slowly but surely, I end up writing this kind of book, but it was a totally different title, totally different vibe, different message. And I go back to it as I'm kind of speaking more on Play Where Your Feet Are after I'd gone through everything that I went through. And I look back and I'm like, wait a minute, like confidence, vulnerability, suffering, sacrifice, testimony, relationships, all of this relates to playing where your feet are. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to switch things up. I'm going to keep a lot of the contents, but I'm going to rewrite this book, and I'm going to actually write this book to being Play Where Your Feet Are. And so I rewrote it from there. The book process started there. And then as we were still writing and editing and everything about the book, I had in the back of my mind, maybe I should start a podcast, because I'm being a guest on all these shows. Everyone's telling me I should do it. I'm in sports broadcasting. I love talking. I love sharing. I love connecting with people. And then my grad year, doing my master's at the University of Miami in journalism, I literally took a podcasting class that taught me everything you needed to know about doing a podcast. So then I had no excuse to not start a podcast. And so from there, I was like, all right, we're doing it. We're starting the business. We're making an LLC. My mom's going to be the co-owner. She's going to handle all the legal side of things, because that's way over my head. I will do all the creative broadcasting, speaking, face of the company type of things, and we'll work together on it. So from there, we launched podcasts first. Then we launched merchandise. We launched the book. I've been doing speaking engagements since 2021, but there it is there. PWYFA, Play Where Your Feet Are. How to live a life full of living. As I mentioned, that's the goal of it all. So I believe you can live a life full of living by playing where your feet are, no matter what, no matter where. And again, that's making sure that any position you're in has impact and purpose. So the book came out just about a year ago, which is crazy because time flies. We are already working on book number 2, which is really exciting. And
I
didn't
know about this.
Yes, book number 2 is in the works. Aiming to come out with book number 2 July 2025. So not this upcoming summer, but the summer after. But super excited. So just speaking engagements continue. I speak at a lot of different schools. I do a lot of college athletes, because that's a big part of my heart, because that was where my testimony is rooted in. And I love sports and athletics, and college athletics in particular. And so I've spoken everywhere from San Diego State to Miami, FIU, FAU, Georgia Tech, Florida, all over the place, literally UCF, so many schools in Florida, Georgia, high schools, clubs, up at a volleyball club in South Carolina, like I said, all the way out to California. So all over the place. I have a speaking engagement this week on Wednesday. When this airs, I believe, on Wednesday, I'll actually be speaking. It is in Nashville. It's the University of Tennessee School of Pharmacy, but I'll be doing it remotely. So I'll be here in Miami speaking to the students there, which is super exciting. But I love what I do. I love sharing my testimony. I hope that just what I'm able to do can contribute to someone else's story. I literally had a text from a girl this week. She texted me yesterday. She said, in the toughest season with sports right now, she's a college athlete at the moment. And she said, I'm rereading your book and just making highlights again. Just wanted to reiterate how much your book has helped me in every area of my life. Love you and so proud of you. Happy to know you. And it's just things like that that keep me going, because again, if I can prevent any hardship or realization that I had to learn the hard way during my career, then that's what I hope to do. So I love what I do. I love connecting with athletes. And for me, on a sports reporting side of things, I think it really has shifted my career a lot, because beforehand, I've told you before, I was really focused, of course, as we all are, on the star athlete and everything that they're doing, and the field goals and the free throws and the first place trophies, and highlighting all the best. And now I've just realized my big passion is not just doing that, because that's amazing and I love doing that, but also highlighting the perseverance, the personalities, the passions of these athletes, so that we can showcase that they're more than just athletes, so that we can, as sports reporters, kind of control the narrative in this college athletic space to showcase that, hey, this athlete is amazing. Cam Kitchens, he's one of the highest graded safeties in all of college football, University of Miami. But I'm going to have him on my show and talk about community service with him, because that's what he loves doing and he's thriving at here in Miami. And so I think it's just giving those athletes a voice and a platform to showcase the humans behind the Hurricanes jerseys, as we say it here in Miami. But again, just showing that they're more than an athlete, and able to change that narrative a little bit, that, hey, you're valuable not just because of the athlete you are on the court or on the field or in the pool or whatever it might be, but for the things you do outside of it, outside of your playing arena too. So it's really cool. I love it. It's shaped my entire career. Like you said, I had no idea why any of this was happening in 2019, but I am forever grateful that I did. And I think God knows what he's doing with my life. So trying to trust him the much as possible.
I think he does too. Well, before we get on with any of the episode, where can they get your book?
Yes, you can find my book anywhere, basically Amazon or my website. So you can go, my Instagram is @cam.dobbs. The business platform Instagram, all things, is @play where your feet are. So you can go to either one of those. The links are in our bios. You can search PWIFA, Play Where Your Feet Are, on Amazon, or again on my website, all linked in my bio too. So I just recommend finding Instagram, clicking the link there, and going from there. But on website or Amazon is the way to go.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure everyone knows where to get it, because it is truly, like, it's such a good testimony, and it's something that definitely people need to hear, even if they're not injured. It's just about enjoying where you are, being present, being able to soak up and realize, like, the blessings that you're in are things that you prayed for, and, like, to just be present in that, and to, like Cam said earlier, to steward in that and just be a good steward of what God's already given you. So thank you, Cam, for talking about that. I really appreciate that. And I know it's going to help somebody. When we were talking about what we want to talk to each other about on this episode, we brought up the fact about, why do bad things happen to good people? And I think a lot of people ask that question of, why does this bad thing happen to this great person? And we talked about, necessarily, it's not that it's God's fault, you know what I mean? And we had a long conversation about this, but I kind of want you to just put your input into it, because this was a bad thing that happened. I mean, it was a God thing, but it was still a bad thing. Like, even though it may be a God thing, it still is painful. It still has things that you had to heal from that you couldn't understand. And you still, there was a path, but you couldn't see it, because sometimes in the path is so hard to see where you're going, because the progress is so hard to do. Like, the progress is what makes, like, ultimately, like, God's purpose prevail. But if you can't see past what you're going through with your pain, it's really hard to get down the path. So can you kind of talk about that?
Of course. Well, I think first off, I think pain can sometimes be the true proof of progress, because, and I talk about this a little bit in my book, because I think of as an athlete, I mean, what we're doing when we work out is we're literally tearing down our muscles. We are breaking down our muscles so that they get stronger. And I think that's a lot of times when we go through pain in life, that's what's going to happen. We might go through this pain, but it will make us stronger. And so keep that in mind first and foremost. But I think when we talked in this conversation about why bad things happen to good people, like we mentioned, not to say at all that God is letting these bad things, God is making these bad things, not necessarily throwing in God's part in this. But I think if you look at the devil, I think it's so simple to see that if you are thriving, if you are living your best life and you're doing it all for the glory of God, Satan is definitely going to attack you. Oh my goodness, he's going to try to tear you down. He is going to want to come at you, because you're going to be such a force for the kingdom that he doesn't want none of that. You're a big threat to him. So of course he's going to keep coming and attacking you. So I think, looking at me in that season, like I said, I wasn't like going off the rails and partying and doing these things and like living an awful life in college. No, I was living for God. I was president of FCA. Like, I was spreading the gospel in everything that I did. I was a clear Christian, like, I led a Bible study with my team. I was not holding back whatsoever. And then all of a sudden, my entire life career is ripped away from me. I become a vegetable for 4 months. I have to drop out of school. Like, I lose everything that I had at the moment that I had built for God. And
Yeah.
so all of a sudden, yeah, go ahead.
No, not to interrupt you, but I just want to say this before I forget it. That reminds me so much of the story of Job. You know, it's like he asked for permission. He's like, "Can I take everything?" He's like, "Yes, but you cannot. You cannot kill him." That was the one thing that he said, you cannot kill him. And it reminds me so much of the story of Job, because it's like literally everything you knew. Also, let's just talk about sports being literally your life, like, and how it shapes your life. Like, you played volleyball throughout high school, I'm guessing, so that was literally your life in high school. Like, tournaments every weekend, going and spending thousands of dollars in travel volleyball. You know, parents and traveling every weekend to wherever you were. Like, there's so much more that goes into it that people don't even understand. And so, you know, the story of Job, it's so resonating with your story, because like, God knew what he was doing, like we already said. But the thing is like, the enemy will try to get you to where he's like scares you, and he's like, does God really have your back? Like, does he really want like good plans for you? And then, you know, and you'll start to question them, like, why is it happening? Like we already talked about. And you know, this is the biggest thing I feel like the Lord puts on my heart a lot of times is, you have to hit rock bottom to realize that God is the rock at the bottom. And that if you don't hit rock bottom, you'll never know what it's like. Like, you wouldn't even know how good is if you didn't have that. You wouldn't know sunshine if you didn't have rainbows, right? And so it's like, you're in this great season, you're getting ready to go into your junior year, right? You're getting ready to go to your junior year, huge season for, high school and college. Lots of recruiters are still looking at you. It doesn't matter if you're in college or if you're in high school. And so that was when I feel like you had this whole plan, Cam, instead of like wanting to go play pro, and it was your plan, right? And so where I'm leading with this is that if you're in that season and you don't understand, and you are believing the lies of the enemy, because regardless of what people say, we do have an enemy. Like, we have somebody who's completely against us and completely living for God. And even though, like, Cam, you said you were living for God and all these things during your volleyball career, the enemy knew what was going on. And God knew that from what's going to happen, that you were even going to bring the gospel to even farther places than you already were. Because the thing is like, think about it. If you were still in volleyball, you wouldn't have been able to bring the gospel as far as you have to all these different states. Yeah, you'd be traveling, but it'd be a little hard because you have to really focus when you're in a game. And so all this to say is that when she's talking about the enemy, like, and people who don't understand this, like, know that like God has a plan for your life, and like nothing's happening by accident. Like, it's all happening on purpose, and your pain has a purpose. And so I just wanted to say that, because I just feel like the Lord really put that on my heart, and I feel like it really is just so important to remember that.
No, for sure. I always look to Proverbs 19:21 in the Bible, and it says that many are the plans in a person's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that prevails. And so I think so much of my life, you know, like you said, I had my plan. I thought my plan was great. And all of a sudden, my plan was ripped and blown to smithereens. But here comes God with his Ephesians 3:20 plan that is more than I could ever ask for or imagine. And though it was a terrible thing that happened to me, Genesis 50:20, he is able to turn everything for good. And all of a sudden, here he goes, presenting this entire new life for me and an opportunity for me to step up and share my faith in a whole different way. I'm able to regain my identity back, knowing that I'm not just Cameron Dobbs, the volleyball player, or the president of FCA, or this or that and the other, that I am Cameron Dobbs, the child of God. And that's the title that I can boast, that I can flex, because that's the only ultimate thing that matters. You know, we're not going to get to heaven one day and hold up our resume of accolades and be like, look, this is why I'm such a good human being. Because I hosted this show and I was 4.0 GPA and I got this internship and I had this many state accolades and I was ACC player of the week. Like, none of that's going to matter at the end of the day. It's going to matter that you're a child of God and that you had a relationship with God, and not only you knew God, but God knew you. And so that just reshaped my entire life. Knew that my identity was reset in Christ, and that's the thing that I'm going to boast, and that's the thing that's going to matter. It takes the pressure off of me, knowing that, hey, like, again, If God's not in it, I don't want it. If he's in it, he's going to bring it to me. And if he's not bringing it, then I'm just going to steward what he's already brought because he's in control. I trust him what he's doing. My life has changed drastically in the past 6 years, but I trust him because so far it's been fantastic, ups and downs and everything in between. He is so in control. He knows what he's doing, and I'm going to do my best, easier said than done, to trust him and to play where my feet are no matter what, no matter where.
No, yeah, I couldn't agree more, Cam. And I'm so glad you brought up the point of identity because, in this industry, if you put your identity in, if you had a good game reporting, if you didn't have a bunch of mess ups on your stand-ups, or if you got a great story and like just a really good human element story out of somebody, or whatever it may be, you're like, oh, I did so good, you know what I mean? But then what happens when you don't, And so let's just go into identity a little bit, because I feel like a lot of people in the sports industry put their identity in sports. And here's the thing, there is a difference between a calling and a purpose. I do believe that, Cam, your calling and mine as well is sports. It's ministry. That's our ministry, right? But our purpose is to love God and love people. And once we do that, everything else will flow from it. If we don't know our purpose, if we don't know that our identity is not rooted in who we are, but in who he is, we're not going to be able to understand the purpose for our lives. And so if it isn't for us understanding the purpose, we wouldn't be able to live out our calling the way God's intended. And even myself, I'm being completely honest, and Cam, you can vouch for this also if you've been in the same situation. There's been a lot of times, if I'm being real, like my first episode on this, guys, I was so nervous. Like I was so freaking nervous, and y'all probably could tell. And that's just because judgment gets passed around easier than kindness. And I think we need to change that, absolutely. And it starts with us, but people are very judgmental. They always have something to say because they don't understand what it's like. You know what I mean? They don't understand what it's like to wake up at 6 a.m. and go get ready and be at, at the game, or to be at the studio or whatever it is all day. You know what I mean? And then even after you're done with the gig of interviewing whoever you are or wherever it may be, you still have to go edit. You still have to go write all these things. And even after that, it never stops because you're still thinking, okay, who can I have for next week? How can I make it better? And it's a beautiful thing because whatever you do and whatever you do for work as if you're working for the Lord, because you are. And if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I believe that 100%. But that doesn't mean that it's not hard. And people who judge us, like if you do judge somebody like that you don't know, think about what you say before you say it, because you don't really know what people have to go through to get where they are. And where I'm going with that, is identity is not in who we are at all. Like I said, it's in who he is and what he has did for us. And if identity was, that would mean that would be something that never changes. We are constantly changing as human beings. We're constantly thinking of new ideas. We're constantly thinking of new ways to better ourselves. So it's not possible. And so I just want to hear your opinion, Cam, on what do you think you've learned when it comes to identity and being sports as your ministry, and how you've learned how to really glorify God in that, because sometimes it's not easy, if we're being really honest.
Sure. Well, anyone that's read my book know that I have a nickname that is called Big Deal Dobbs. And Big Deal Dobbs, it was one that my pastor here in Miami, my young adult pastor and kind of next generation pastor, who's also one of my closest friends here in Miami, he would always call me Big Deal Dobbs. No matter what, like in any season of my life, Big Deal Dobbs, as a sports reporter, as a leader, as a president, as a business owner, as a coach, as a player, anything and everything, it was always Big Deal Dobbs. And even Big Deal Dobbs in the worst season of my life, anxiety, depression, fully concussed, everything. And so he would tell me, like, you're a big deal no matter what. Like, it's not just because of what you do on the court or whatever it is, or reporting, wherever you go, like, you're going to be a big deal no matter what your position is, what your title is, you're still a big deal. And so I realized through that, okay, you're not a big deal because you are the star athlete, because you're the captain, because you have the best NIL deal, because you scored the best interview, because you're the CEO, because this, that, the other. You're not a big deal because of any of that. Again, you're a big deal because you're a child of God. Like the God of the universe chose you, set you apart, set plans for you, gave you a purpose, gave you a calling, gave you a plan for your life, sent his son to die on the cross for you thousands of years ago before you were even born. And before, guess what? You got one interview, before you made one A on an exam, before you scored one touchdown, before you rushed X amount of yards, before you got one kill, before you did this, that, and the other job interview, you insert the blank. Like, you were called a child of God. You were named a big deal thousands of years ago before you could even think to set a goal. You could even think to go for a job. You could even think to score a touchdown, to do X, Y, and Z. So
Yeah.
I just take that as like, okay, if I am a big deal by nature, by just simply being a human, then I need to act like a big deal and I need to walk like a big deal. And to me, again, it all goes back to playing where your feet are. I think that big deals take advantage of every opportunity, of every interaction, of every day, of every situation. And that can look like a variety of things. That doesn't necessarily mean that every single day you are grind, 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 go, 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 like strive for all the hardest and just, rough, tough, and all hoorah. Maybe being a big deal that day is knowing that you need your rest so you can be your best the next day. Maybe it's giving yourself the grace that your best one day might look different than your best another day. And again, you take yourself out of the equation here because it's not about you anyway. It's all about giving glory back to God. It's all about serving those around you. Like you said, we are here to love God and love people. So if I can do that in my daily life, that's what being a big deal is. It's putting myself down, actually, and living for something higher than that, knowing that I'm not the one that needs the glory or gets the glory or definitely deserves the glory, that it's all for every other person involved, including God, especially God. And that's what being a big deal is. So I think when you really realize where your identity lies, you take pressure off of yourself. It almost becomes easier because you're like, wait, this isn't on me. It's not on me. Like, I'm going to try my best. And that's the thing that matters. Everything else will be handled and taken control. And we mentioned earlier about enemies, like haters are going to hate, whether that is a coworker, a boss, a friend, someone random that's just a troll that follows you on Instagram. It doesn't matter. Like, haters are going to hate. So you just got to do your best. Take out comparison, because comparison is the thief of joy, whether you're looking at someone or someone's looking at you. And again, do your best, and that's all you can control.
Yeah. You brought up the fact of like they were a person before they scored X amount of yards or X amount of touchdowns, rushed many yards, got 4, homework, whatever it may be. So we both have the same kind of mindset when it comes to being a reporter. Is we see ourselves as somebody who wants to know who they are before we want to know how many, like times they've won this or, so what I'm trying to get at, is we see them for the human they are. And I think in sports, and probably you as well, it is idolized. Like sports, people idolize sports. Like it is a real problem. And there's nothing wrong, but there's nothing evil about, liking sports and watching sports. And we literally are, that's our life. But the thing is that when it comes to sports, it is a gift from the Lord. And so it's also a gift to be able to make it your own. And what we do. And I kind of want to touch on this. No, you on here, guys, you're not going to hear mainly about just, how many touchdowns they had or how many home runs they had or how many goals they had. That I'm sorry, that's just not the kind of reporter I am. And Cam, you as well can say, like, we've talked, like, that's not how you are either. You're going to hear about what they do behind the scenes, where they grew up, why they where they are, what their faith means to them and how it helps them throughout the games. But there's many athletes that I will bring on that have faith in their life, and that's because it's just so big. It's such a big part of your life that just everyone should be able to experience that, like, love for God, and like love of God. And so I just think that like a lot of reporters and a lot of people in sports, they're always looking for the money-making questions, like the drama, the injuries, all these things. And sometimes it's relevant because it's like we do need to talk about things that are happening right now because people need to know. But also remember, like, these people that we are going to be interviewing, that I will be bringing on the show and that Cam brings on her show, these are people. These are children of God. These are people who have a story. And just because they are in, playing for SEC football, just because they are in the NFL, just because they are in the MLB, just because their parents are this, just because whatever the title or whatever, the name may be, it doesn't matter. And like, you still need to see him as a person because people have feelings. And so many people, we talked about, for example, Cam, Twitter. Twitter can be such an evil place because it's just like people come on there and talk that don't even know what they're talking about. And they just want to talk to like bring down the kid. And I told you about when I was talking to Dylan Cruz's parents, and Kim's mom literally said, like, you know, I don't let Dylan on Twitter after this amount of days after the game because he's already going through enough with his own mental, like, he doesn't need that extra. And so where I'm getting at with that, sometimes I guess I ramble and I'm really sorry, but I promise you it has a purpose, is that me as a reporter, I'm not always going to be at the breaking news. Like, it's going to be more about why I'm having this person on is because of who they are off the field. And covering all bases is really all bases on the field and off the field. And Cam, you know, you do Canes All Access, obviously. All access into the Canes' lives, not just who they are on the court, not just who they are on the field, but you've really used that, Cam, to make it your own and like get creative. And we were talking and you said like you had one of the basketball players on, right? And you guys were doing like Halloween, like what was it? Was it Halloween like face paintings?
Yeah, so we had a track athlete on the show, and during the show, we just talked about Halloween traditions growing up, different things about Halloween, fall vibes, fall seasons, movies, shows, the whole thing there. And during the entire interview, we were just doing Halloween makeup looks. So I was doing a scarecrow, and she was doing a black cat. And as we were just doing this fun little interactive bit, we were also just talking about fall. And so it made our interview a lot more engaging. It made it a lot more fun. And like you said too, I mean, if it's all bases covered, you're gonna cover all the bases. It's everyone else is gonna, of course, touch on and report on and see the stats and see the highlights. Instagram has that covered, just
Yeah.
point blank period. Website, you can look up the stats, you can look up the box score. That's awesome. What can I give you more? Because you can look up the other stuff anywhere. How can I provide you with additional information that you're not going to find elsewhere? That's what we want to do as reporters anyway. That's what any reporter is trying to do. Like you said, you're trying to break a news story that no one's heard before. So why would we ask about the exact same stats, stories, and accolades? We want to ask about their life, and we want to give the viewer that. I mean, you see it now with Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Like, this is a relationship we're talking about on national
Yeah.
television every single day. It's taken over the world. It has pretty much nothing to do with football besides maybe the stats of correlation of when she's in the stadium and how well he's playing. But other than that, it's all about personal life because we're interested in that. We love athletics, we love athletes, and we want to see, like you said, what makes them tick, why they love the sport they do, why they play it so hard, where it came from. And that's what we're doing in the jobs that we have.
Yeah, the thing is that when it comes to human element stories, those speak to you so much more than somebody saying they got a touchdown or they're, you know, this player of the week. And those are very important. Those are accomplishments in themselves, absolutely. But, you know, the thing is that the athletes that you interview, and if you're a reporter watching or if you're anybody in the sports, the athletes that you are human with and that you humanize and you don't just see them as an athlete, they will gain so much more respect for you and they will let you in on so much more because they feel like they can be comfortable with you. Comfortability in this industry will take you a long way. And Cam, you can attest to that. You know, you were talking about with the Canes All Access people, the girl, you know, she said to you, like, I've always felt comfortable around you. And even when we go back to, I actually wrote this down, you said that you were with a coach, right? And when he was leaving, you know, he wasn't even a believer, but he said something to you, and I'm having you talk about what he said to you, that you didn't even have to really say more than what he already said. Like he literally was just basically saying, like, you are just a light and you're just real, and the way you treat athletes is just something that, like, you know, that like doesn't go unrecognized. And so Cam, talk about a little bit about that experience with the coach and what that taught you.
Sure. So that moment that she was referencing there was in my end of the year and really end of career meeting with the Miami Hurricanes when I was a player turned coach. And so basically every sport, typically at every school, will have end of semester meetings. So every time a semester wraps up, you're meeting with your coaches to discuss what your training looks like over the break, if you have a break or not, and basically what you're going to do in preparation for the next season, whether that's in preparation for your off season or in preparation for your next season, whatever it might be. You're just talking about what you've done in the past, successes, highlights where you need to grow, and how you're going to get to your goals. And so I had this meeting. It was typical end of season meeting, but for the last time for me, because I was graduating, I was moving on from coaching with the Canes, finished my playing career as already. And so it was a very emotional meeting, for lack of further detail, for all the reasons of going through everything that I'd gone through with this coaching staff. And now it was our final time. We were really going to be there together intentionally as a Canes volleyball crew. And so they were just going around after I kind of said my spiel, all honoring me and being very kind, of just kind of like last words as a Canes volleyball member. And one of my coaches, he's not a believer whatsoever. He's not a Christian, but he just told me, he said, Cam, like, I respect you so much. And I always felt more than anyone that I could just be myself around you because you loved me so well. And it was never judgment. It was always, I'm going to be the light that I am. And if I can rub off on you, amazing. I'm not going to shove my faith down your throat. I'm going to talk about it freely, but I'm going to love you for who you are and hope that maybe you'll learn something from it. And if not, I'm still going to love you for who you are. And so it was just a really special moment to hear those words from a coach that you knew was not a believer. He said it himself in that. He was like, I probably said way too many cuss words that you prefer to hear and this and that and the other. But he was like, but you never judged me for it. And I always felt safe. And our team and our culture at Miami has always been big on psychological safety. And he just kind of honored me for implementing that into my, not only the culture we were in with Canes volleyball, but my own life. So that was really special. Again, we're here to love God and to love others. Now, that's obviously tough love is a part of that because we believe what we believe and we want to see everyone here in heaven. And so we're going to do what we need to do to make that happen. But we're going to love everyone first. And we're going to show things by showing love. And I was able to do that to him. And it was really cool to hear that actually from him, that I kind of accomplished it. So that was really special.
Yeah. The one thing that I just feel like I'm taking away from all of this, and gosh, it's been such a good interview, and I just hope that anyone's watching this has learned something. That's just my hope, my prayer is that y'all are learning something about Cam, maybe that you don't know about her, about God, or about Jesus, if you've never heard about him, just learning something new. But the biggest thing is that I was told this one time, and it is so true. You may be the only Bible some people will ever read. And so it's so important to be so like, to know that the things you do matter. Even if you are not, if we're talking sports, if you're not in the field, if you're not reporting, if you're not, doing your job, whatever it may be, but it's those little things that actually matter. Like the people that you are around, what you are saying, how you're treating people. I'm telling you right now, and Cam, I'm sure you've had the same exact experience. There can be the most successful person in a room. They can have all the accomplishments. They can interview the best of the best. They, whoever the best may be, to whoever may think, because it really is done. Like, I just think the best like mindset is like that's a shallow mindset. Like, everyone works hard. But back to what I was saying, there can be so many great things about this person, whatever. But the thing is you can be all these things, but if you do not be good to people, you are nothing. You can only go so far if you don't treat people with kindness. And I just think it's super important to remember that, because in all you do, you need to do with love. And Cam, you do that so well, like so well. You are just a light and girl. Like, it's been so good having you on, because I've had the best time, and I just appreciate you so much and everything you're doing. And I just know you're going to build the kingdom at Miami, and you already have. And I just am so thankful you got to come on the show. And I just want to leave up the last minute to, kind of give you the stage to say anything you didn't get to say. And just thank you, Cam.
Sure. Well, thank you. Oh my goodness, for having me on. I told you last week when you called me that I was so completely shocked that was why the reason of the phone call, because we had such good conversation before that. But so honored to hop on to All Bases Covered. You're a wonderful host. It was so fun just being able to see you thrive in your own element firsthand as your interviewee, which was so fun to see and experience. But I love everything that you're doing. For anyone that's listening, sorry, not sorry that we talked about faith the whole time. I mean, I know you might come on here to think more about sports and everything, but I think I had someone on my show the other day, and I said to him, and it's really the same to me, that It's like interviewing Tim Tebow and not mentioning his faith. It is so much of his life that it's the same thing with me. You can't interview me and me not bring up my faith and faith not be a part of the conversation, because that is the root of everything that I do and everything that I am. So if you want the story, if you want all bases covered with Cameron Dobbs, that's where you're going to get with it. But I'll also plug myself too, because I do ACC Network color commentating, ESPN Plus color commentating for volleyball. I interview all athletes at the University of Miami and cover all 18 sports there. I end-game host for Hurricanes women's basketball and baseball. I've done stuff with the Dolphins, with the Marlins, everywhere around Miami. So if you want more sports content too, you can also follow me at cam.dobbs on Instagram, and I can guarantee you I'll deliver all the sports content there too. But faith is so important to me. It's so important to Mackenzie as well. And so we're honored to be able to share our platforms and be able to talk about this topic and bring this into the light of athletics as well, because sports and ministry, in my opinion, is the coolest ministry that there is, because sports, as we all know, is such a powerful force, such an impact in athletes' lives, but also fans' lives, viewers' lives, coaches' lives, and reporters' lives like us. So it's been really awesome to talk about this today. Y'all follow me, find all the things there with Play Where Your Feet Are, at Play Where Your Feet Are on Instagram. We have a podcast, we have a book, we have merchandise. You can see it some behind me here. I got my books. Where are we? Books over there too. But yeah, all things just find on my Instagram. You'll see it there. I think you guys are going to help me out too and plug it below. But I love you guys. I appreciate everything you're doing. I'm always in your corner cheering you on. Y'all make sure you follow, subscribe, everything you need to do for all bases covered, and Mackenzie Alexander, because you don't want to miss what's going on here. I'm happy to be a part of it, honored to be a part of it, and excited to see it grow.
Oh, thank you, Cam. I love it. Yeah, guys, like you said, you guys can find the link to her book in our bio. You can go to her Instagram. It's all there. Anything you want to find out about Cam or watch some of her work, all there. But yeah, just such a fun episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. So yeah, that's really it for today's video and episode. And I'm just super, super happy we got to do this, Cam. And hope y'all enjoy. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe, like Cam said, and stay tuned for the next episode. Bye, guys.